Hello everyone, you are watching Business Standard Interviews, and today here we have with us V. Srinivas, Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, to talk about government's flagship Swachhata Campaign 2.0. Swachhata Campaign 1.0 was started last year with an aim to bring institutional reforms by disposal of old files and clearing spaces in government offices. Today, we will be talking with Srinivasa about the success of 1.0 and 2.0, but also about the future goals and challenges. Welcome, Srinivasa.
Thank you for inviting me to Business Standard Dialogues.
Thank you very much, sir. And my first question is, what makes the Swachhata Campaign 2.0 different from the previous campaign?
The Swachhata Campaign 2.0 is being implemented in pursuance of the vision of Honorable Prime Minister, which was to ensure that the campaign was implemented in the remotest parts of India to institutionalize Swachhata and also to ensure that all offices of Government of India, be it autonomous offices, subordinate offices, or attached offices, minimized pendency. So, a plethora of multiplicity of objectives were incorporated into the campaign with focus on Swachhata, but also on minimizing pendency, digitalization, enhancing office spaces, inclusivity measures were incorporated as key elements of this program.
So, how much money has been generated from this campaign 2.0?
The Special Campaign 2.0 has actually exceeded expectations in terms of the number of cleanliness campaign sites. We have had 91,000 cleanliness campaign sites, which have 91,000 office spaces which have been taken up under this campaign, and over 41 lakh files were reviewed. Also, electronic scrap was disposed under the campaign, and to the sheer numbers, 256 crores of revenues were generated from scrap disposal, particularly electronic scrap and also the paper scrap that has been weeded out.
So, where this money is being put to use, or is it with the government, and how and where this money will be used?
The revenue generated from the Special Campaign 2.0 goes into the Consolidated Fund of India, and it will be used for funding India's developmental needs.
So, what was the criteria for weeding out these files?
A very comprehensive guideline was established in terms of how record management practices will be undertaken in government. It has been a long time since records were weeded out in government. So, in 2014, when for the first time the Honorable Prime Minister assumed office, a direction was given that office spaces shall review records and ensure that files which have outlived their retention period shall be weeded out. So, it was a major campaign which resulted in several thousands of files being weeded out and also a lot of files of historical value being transferred to the National Archives of India. The campaign of 2022 has identified about 60 lakh files, physical files which are there for review. The second feature we found was over 4 lakh files of electronic files would require to be closed down because they were occupying a lot of cloud space. So, the criteria was that files which have outlived their retention period shall be weeded out. The files which are of historical value, which have completed 25 years, shall be transferred to the National Archives of India, and files which are to be maintained in the record rooms of ministries shall be conserved and maintained. So, efforts in this direction have been made by all records officers in every ministry and department to review their record rooms and identify files of historical value. In the Department of Administrative Reforms alone, we found records dating back to 1908 and 1917. A number of records of 1947 were identified, which are being taken up for conservation and also for transfer to the National Archives of India for as documents of historical interest.
So you mentioned the 60,000 files were reviewed. So which department reviewed the most files and disposed of with them, and what revenue they generated, and what was the space that they freed?
Yes, the objective was to identify files which need to be weeded out. It is 60 lakh files that have been identified for review, and the highest number of files where departments where such reviews are being undertaken are departments which have long institutional legacy. For example, the Ministry of External Affairs, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, institutions which are heavy file-driven institutions with long history of governance. In these, a number of files have been identified. In fact, in the Department of Pensions, 20,000 files were identified for weeding. And we had to set up a number of weeding machines wherein which files could be shred. And thereafter, the space that was freed is being used for enhancement of office spaces. And I have seen in a number of departments, for example, in the Department of Land Resources, after file weeding, a Rejuve yoga center has been set up. Similarly, in the CBIC, an enhancement, as part of enhancement of their office spaces, they have established a pictorial gallery called Aranya. In the Department of Posts, they have set up a cafeteria, which in Dak Bhavan's first floor, it was a scrapyard. In many departments, dump yards and scrap yards have also been converted into parking spaces and also for office spaces. And what happens to all this scrap that is disposed? The scrap that is disposed, as NGOs have been identified, self-help groups have been identified, who will utilize this paper scrap and convert it into file covers, into dashboards for future use. So the linkages that have been set up have been very strong. There are also Swachh ATMs that have been set up, where if you dispose plastic waste, you get cash in return. So the objective is to translate waste to wealth, not only in office spaces, but I also see this in terms of the Department of Agriculture, Research and Education, which has adopted plastic and parthenium-free farms as an objective. So they've identified select villages where they're training hundreds and thousands of farmers to adopt plastic-free and parthenium-free farms. And capacity building is being given. Also on waste management and vermicompost measures are being promoted. So we notice a whole of government approach where 84 ministries and departments have come together to work with the solitary objective to institutionalize Swachhata and minimize pendency.
So you said that the ATMs were established and people can give plastic waste and can get money. How much money was distributed, or how much money was dispersed because of this exercise that you just mentioned?
I have the overall figure with me right now. 256 crores has been generated from scrap disposal. Individual details we will be collating after the campaign concludes, and we'll be happy to share with you separately.
Okay, definitely, sir. Sir, for carrying out such a gigantic exercise, there must be a lot of manpower needed. I just wanted to know how many nodal officers were trained for this exercise during the first phase of the campaign, and how many more were added to the second phase of the campaign.
In response to the Honorable Prime Minister's direction to convene and conduct a special campaign, thousands of government officials responded with tremendous enthusiasm, vigor, and a deep sense of commitment. In fact, I have undertaken visits to 19 field locations in Guwahati and in Hyderabad. And what I have observed is the response has been phenomenal. And we've had not only in terms of government officials from 91,000 office spaces, but also a lot of citizens were involved and participated with great vigor. For example, as I said, in pensions, a face authentication application campaign was launched, in which so many welfare associations from pensioners have participated with tremendous vigor, and they were all 80 plus pensioners participating in the face authentication campaign. Similarly, the Ministry of Railways conducted the Swachhata campaign in all railway stations, wherein which 100% mechanized cleaning was adopted. There was no brooming. Also in hospitals, 100% mechanized cleaning practices were adopted. And both these cases, which are highly citizen-centric departments, be they railway stations or hospitals, the citizen response to this campaign has been tremendously positive. I also observed the CISF's efforts in terms of ensuring that speed with which a passenger moves from the entry gate to the departure gate was monitored as part of the campaign, and efforts were made to ensure that he reaches the departure gate within 5 minutes' time. A target was taken in Hyderabad airport where they were monitoring a passenger's journey so that the queue system was improved. Not only was it a campaign to institutionalize Swachhata, but also to ensure a citizen-friendly face of government. So when a citizen visits a government office, the experience should be a very happy experience. It should be an experience that is enabling, and it should be an experience that is very conducive for not only the government official but also for the citizen. I also observed hand hygiene practices which have been taken up in the CGHS wellness centers and also in the one-stop centers of the Women and Child Development Department. A number of improvements for inclusivity were taken up.
So you mentioned how the campaign has helped citizens. Now I wanted to know, is there a mechanism of getting feedback from common people? Do we have a mechanism where a common person can see that the change is being made and they can review the change? Is there any mechanism which has been created as of now, or are you planning to create such mechanism in the coming future?
We've had a massive media outreach in the campaign, and particularly on social media, and we have received 1.97 billion impressions. That is almost 19.7 crore citizens have seen what the special campaign 2.0 is. It makes it one of the largest office cleaning campaigns that has been undertaken in the history of modern India. We've also had, in terms of PIB statements issued by every ministry and department, more than 80 PIB statements have been issued. And the positive responses that we have received range over 41,000 positive mentions have come on our social media accounts. So overall, we see that the engagement rate of citizens has been extremely high on the special campaign 2.0 hashtag. And the data shows a very large footprint on a pan-India basis, ranging from Leh in Ladakh to Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu, from Itanagar in Arunachal Pradesh to Bikaner in Rajasthan. Across every state, government officials and government officers have come forward to participate in this campaign. And it's a pan-India campaign in its true nature.
So we have read news of red tapeism in government offices, and during this drive, you dispose of with the many laws and you cleared file, you redress the grievances. So has there any change in the mindset of government officials because of this drive, or in terms of addressing the public grievances?
Yes, the campaign had two major monitorable objectives also. One was public grievances has been taken up as a monitorable objective, in which more than 3,50,000 public grievances have been redressed as part of the campaign. And I've had the opportunity to go through a number of citizen responses, because every citizen is called whose grievance is redressed, is given a call from the BSNL feedback call center, and his response is taken. So the number of citizens who have expressed satisfaction with the quality of grievance redressal as also the timelines of grievance redressal is very high. We also have observed that in terms of easing of rules and processes, more than 900 rules and processes have been simplified as part of the campaign. In terms of the two departments that I am heading, administrative reforms and in pensions, 60 circulars were issued to ensure that the well-being of pensioners could be taken up, as also in terms of streamlining of record management practices.
So you have talked about the success of this campaign. Now, I wanted to know what were the challenges that you faced during this campaign, the 1.0 as well as the second phase of the campaign.
This campaign has been implemented on digital platforms. A pan-India campaign of this scale being taken up in multiple cities and towns, one of the biggest challenges is to ensure that the outreach is maintained so that every office across India is aware of the laudable objectives of the campaign and also the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister. So the campaign was implemented through a digital platform. We had created a digital portal, www.pgportal.gov.in /special campaign 2.0, on which constantly the number of offices where activities were to be taken up were identified. And we've had to have a number of outreach meetings with ministries and departments. Field visits had to be conducted to ensure the campaign momentum was sustained. And also, the campaign received support from the highest levels in government, in that the honorable ministers and the council of ministers participated in the campaign, providing leadership and guidance, as also secretaries to government of India participated in the campaign. So the senior leadership of the government was involved very closely with the implementation, which meant that all the field formations also drew inspiration and participated with renewed vigor and enthusiasm. So the challenge was to monitor the campaign, ensure dissemination of progress, coordinate with multiple agencies across the nation, and to ensure that the best practices were identified and highlighted for replication.
Okay, sir. So, what are the future prospects for this campaign? Are we going to see campaign 3.0 in the next year, or what plans do you have?
The objective is to institutionalize Swachhata and to minimize pendency in government, as was done in the case of Special Campaign 1.0. The Special Campaign 2.0 will head into an assessment phase where we will undertake an assessment from November 15th to 30th, and thereafter the dissemination of best practices will be conducted as part of the Good Governance Week. The operationalization and monitoring of these parameters will continue over the next 12 months on the portal. The portal will continue, the nodal officers will continue to operate, and once again we will have a major campaign in 2023. The Honorable Prime Minister's vision is that it should be an annual affair where a major outreach to citizens should be taken up. The launch date as also the conclusion date are historic occasions for the nation. October 2nd being the birthday of the father of the nation, and October 31st as Rashtriya Ekta Divas represent very highly significant dates in terms of government servants rededicating themselves for the cause of Swachhata.
So, this is a very beautiful concept of cleaning and addressing public grievances. But why this campaign is being run for only 1 month, and it's an annual affair, no doubt. But why this campaign is not being run for the whole year, 12 months?
The campaign, in a campaign format, it is being taken up from October 2nd to 31. But after this, these parameters that have been identified will continue to be monitored. But a major campaign of this size will be taken up again next year. But the monitorable parameters in terms of cleanliness sites, in terms of public grievances, in terms of easing of rules. And it is envisaged under record management that on an annual basis, records will be reviewed. So we feel that a 12-month timeline would be the best operational for a comprehensive record management practice.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving us your valuable time and insightful your thoughts and vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me to Business Standard Talks.